Developing right now on Morning News Now, new information about a U.S. military helicopter that went down while flying over the Strait of Hormuz with 2 pilots on board. Despite that, renewed optimism from President Trump about talks to end the war with Iran, even after a new wave of strikes between Iran and Israel.
We're very close to having a very, very good, strong, powerful deal. The strait will open up right away. It'll open up immediately upon signing, which could be in 2 or 3 days.
We'll bring you the latest from the Middle East. Also this morning, it's decision day for voters in 4 states, including Maine, where a controversial candidate in a race for a critical Senate seat could help Democrats win back a majority. Meanwhile, in California, the ballot count continues amid baseless allegations of voter fraud. And now, NBC News projecting who will advance in the contentious race for LA's mayor. We have an update. Also, flooding fears. This morning, parts of the South and the Midwest bracing for yet another round of severe storms. We're tracking the conditions, the dangers, and what to expect where you live. And is remote work too remote and isolating? Researchers say it might be. A look at how working from home could be taking a toll on your mental health. It is good to be with you. I'm Jessica Layton, in for Joe and Savannah. And we begin this Tuesday morning with news from the war with Iran. A U.S. military helicopter on patrol over the Strait of Hormuz going down over the critical waterway on Monday. President Trump says we are expected to learn more details today about what led to the Apache helicopter crash. The president says the 2 pilots on board are fine. We're learning this morning the pilots are in stable condition after they were rescued. The Strait of Hormuz, as you know, has been a major sticking point between the U.S. and Iran in this conflict that has now gone on for more than 100 days. Iran has maintained a hold on the strait, which is critical to the world's oil supply. President Trump says despite this incident, he is confident a deal to end the war will happen sooner than later.
We have ongoing negotiations in Iran and with Iran, and that hasn't stopped. And we could have at least an idea by 1 or 2 days from now, but I think it's going well. That will not allow in any way, shape, or form nuclear weapons.
The president's comments came hours after Iran and Israel exchanged attacks for the first time since an April ceasefire agreement. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel has the latest from Jerusalem.
U.S. Central Command says that an Army Apache attack helicopter was lost at sea and crashed while off the coast of Oman. It was on patrol as part of the U.S. military presence in the Persian Gulf, enforcing a blockade on Iran, preventing ships from entering or leaving Iranian ports. After the helicopter crash, the U.S. military launched a massive search and rescue operation, recovered the 2 pilots within 2 hours. CENTCOM's reporting that the pilots are in stable condition. It did not list a cause of the crash, that it is under investigation. President Trump is continuing to express optimism that a peace deal between the U.S. and Iran could be reached and could be reached soon, without explaining any reasoning for his optimism. He said that a deal could happen within an hour if all the sides wanted to, and that he's hopeful that a deal could be reached between the U.S. and Iran within the next 2 to 3 days.
All right, Richard, thank you. Here at home, voters in 4 more states are heading to the polls today to pick their candidates for November's pivotal midterm elections. Part of Democrats' hopes to regain the majority in the Senate rest on flipping a seat in Maine, where candidate Graham Plattner has drawn national scrutiny over some scandalous revelations about his past. All this happening as election workers in California keep counting those ballots from that state's primary a week ago, with Republicans making baseless claims of voter fraud in the Golden State. NBC News Washington reporter Alice Barr has the details on that. Alice, good morning.
Good morning, Jessica. Today's primary elections offer more clues about how voters are feeling ahead of the November midterms, with a heavy focus on that Senate race in Maine centering on a controversial candidate. Voters heading to the polls today from Nevada to North Dakota, South Carolina, and Maine, where a high-stakes Senate race could help tip the balance of power in Washington.
We get to show this country the way forward.
Oyster farmer and former Marine Graham Plattner is the clear Democratic frontrunner aiming to unseat five-term Republican Senator Susan Collins while weathering a series of scandals, including recent allegations of toxic and unsettling behavior three former girlfriends described to the New York Times. Allegations Plattner denies while acknowledging what he calls a dark period after his military service.
When politically motivated, serious and false accusations are made against me, Maine, you have my back.
President Trump, meanwhile, addressed a tele-rally for South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham's re-election bid and again raised questions about election integrity.
We don't want any surprises. We don't want any bad things to happen. In elections, you never know, so we have to be very careful.
After abruptly ending a 50-minute interview with NBC's Kristen Welker when she challenged his claims of election fraud in California, there's no evidence of fraud in the state's ballot counting. The president later posted it's, quote, not possible for Spencer Pratt, the candidate he endorsed, to have lost the runoff for Los Angeles mayor, alleging, quote, rigged elections. California officials acknowledge the state's universal vote-by-mail system causes delays, but say it is working.
Our job is to make sure that we process those ballots correctly, securely, accurately, and that does take time.
NBC News now projecting progressive city councilwoman Nithya Raman will face incumbent Democratic Mayor Karen Bass in the fall. Millions of mail-in ballots still need to be counted statewide in California, and the governor's race there remains unclear. The Republican candidate is calling for changes to speed up the counting process. That's something Governor Gavin Newsom's office says he'd like to see, too, and we can expect that timing is going to be a key point of contention in November. Jessica.
For sure. And Alice, we want to go back to the Maine Senate race real quick. How are Democratic lawmakers responding to the allegations that have been raised about Graham Plattner?
Yeah, it's a difficult position for fellow Democrats, certainly on Capitol Hill. And we've heard leading Democrats from Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to Senator Adam Schiff try to frame this as a choice the people of Maine need to make, and one between Graham Plattner's personal flaws and the policy questions that are outstanding. We heard AOC talk about having to weigh what she said were valid concerns about Plattner's personal life against things like Medicare and health care policy in this country.
Yeah, all the big issues. All right, Alice, thank you. Elsewhere in Washington, the Justice Department could soon have new leadership. On Monday, President Trump formally nominated Todd Blanche to be the next Attorney General. Blanche, President Trump's former personal lawyer, who has served as acting Attorney General since Pam Bondi was ousted in April, is a staunch defender of the president and his agenda. But Blanche is expected to face a big uphill battle for confirmation in the Senate. NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin joins us now with more on this and other headlines from Washington. Hey, Julie, so why do some senators appear skeptical of Blanche for this post, and what kind of questions do we think he's going to face?
Jessica, good morning. Look, in the words of Senator Bill Cassidy, who is a Republican who recently went against the president, and then the president is basically the reason Cassidy is not going to be in the Senate anymore at the end of this year. He told me yesterday that he's trying to see if Todd Blanche is somebody who's going to put the country first or put the president first. He wants to make sure that the DOJ remains independent. The biggest issue here is really that so-called anti-weaponization fund, the $1.8 billion that Blanche played a direct role in creating. That fund, remember, the president had pushed for to essentially give some, including January 6 rioters, payouts, taxpayer-funded payouts, something that Blanche, under oath, told House members last week won't happen. But the Senate is not buying that yet. Many Republicans, including those on the Critical Judiciary Committee that are going to process his nomination in the next month or month and a half or so, they say that they need Blanche to tell them point blank that that weaponization fund is not going to happen anymore and that he's not going to do anything like that in the future if confirmed permanently to this post.
And Julie, President Trump, we know, continues to face some pushback over some of his projects in Washington, including that UFC event that's supposed to happen this Sunday on the White House lawn. What else do we know?
There was a lawsuit filed just this past weekend. It's probably not going to do anything to stop the event from taking place because it's scheduled for June 14th on Sunday, which also happens to be the president's birthday. But it was filed by the Public Integrity Group. It's a watchdog organization, and they say that they're not sure if this event is private, public, whether it really is designed to celebrate America's 250th birthday, because the UFC CEO, Dana White, he's a major Trump surrogate. He campaigned for him. He's a big ally. They're questioning whether the president's actually going to profit because of this UFC fight, something the administration has completely pushed back on. Remember, this fight is taking place on the White House South Lawn. There's a fan fest. There's all this fanfare surrounding it. And there are a lot of questions just because this really has never happened before.
Julie, the House could vote on that $70 billion reconciliation bill to fund ICE and Border Patrol that was passed by the Senate on Friday. What do we know about whether it's expected to pass?
Yeah, Senator Lisa Murkowski, the only Republican to vote against it. She said, though, it's not because she doesn't want to fund immigration and customs. It's because of the process. This didn't go through regular order. Democrats were not consulted. This is a party line Republican effort to fund those two provisions inside the DHS. And that's because Democrats months ago objected to the immigration enforcement practices, the very harsh practices that we saw at the beginning of this year and at the end of last year. This is something they've pushed back on. So Hakeem Jeffries, the top Democrat in the House, said, we're not going to provide any Democratic votes. That's an issue for Mike Johnson because he can only afford to lose two Republicans. Thomas Massie of Kentucky, who is not a Trump ally, already said he plans to vote against it because it adds to the deficit. But certainly this is a priority for Republicans, and they could potentially push it through today.
And it's coming as we're learning the president's border czar is planning to ramp up ICE operations here in New York City. Julie, what's behind this decision, and what do we know about those plans so far?
There has been a clash, Jessica, between Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, and Tom Homan, the president's border czar, over this legislative package that the governor recently signed into law. It would essentially give citizens of New York more protections against ICE enforcement. It does not allow state and local officers to participate in those enforcement activities. So Tom Homan said, you know what, we're going to send the biggest surge yet, in his words, of ICE officers to New York City. He didn't say when. He didn't give many details of how that would work out. But certainly this comes at a time where for months, blue cities, blue states in particular, including in New Jersey, we recently saw clashes at an immigration facility there, immigration detention center there, we've seen that happen over the last few months. Now it's happening in New York. Homan saying he's going to surge those officers there. Hochul pushing back, saying it's going to create more chaos for citizens in New York. We'll see what happens.
So many headlines out of Washington this morning. Julie, thanks so much. Let's talk about the weather now, and millions of people across the South and Midwest bracing for the possibility of more severe weather today. This follows days of flooding rains that have trapped people in cars, leading to swift water rescues. NBC News national correspondent Aaron Gilchrist has the latest.
Ferocious storms ripping across Missouri. Several communities awakened by pounding rain and flash flooding. A man and woman stuck with their dog on top of a car. First responders pushing through waist-deep water and rescuing people by boat. Firefighters saving a woman and a child from their front porch after rising water turned their home into an island. In Joplin, a young couple losing everything to floodwaters.
We pretty much just went up to our whole house completely full of water.
In Alabama, rising water sweeping trucks off roads and trapping a dozen hikers in a cave on Sunday.
They were trapped about chest deep water, moving water. It was cold. It was dark. There is no light.
Officer Jeremy Little and another rescuer using rope to help guide all of the hikers through the water and out to safety.
And how much danger were these people in?
The possibility of the danger that they were in was extremely high. If anybody fell over and into the high rushing water, could have been drowned.
Meanwhile, in California, firefighters urgently racing to put out a growing new wildfire in San Diego. Battling the blaze from above and on the ground as flames potentially threaten hundreds of homes. Aaron Gilchrist, NBC News.
With all this in mind, we're tracking severe storms headed to the plains and the upper Midwest. For more details, let's look at the Morning News Now weather. Meteorologist Rafael Miranda joins us now with the latest. Rafael, good morning.
Good morning, Jessica. Yeah, we're dealing with that enhanced risk for severe weather today. And it's not just today, it's for the next 3 days. So let's take a look at what we're expecting this afternoon And tonight, focusing on the Dakotas, especially this orange shaded area here for that enhanced risk. Tornadoes a possibility, a few strong tornadoes a possibility as well, and large hail. I've highlighted the tornado risk here, the Dakotas into western Minnesota here. We'll be watching places like Fargo and Bismarck as we head throughout the afternoon for those dangerous storms to move through. Tomorrow, even more affected with that severe weather risk. You can see it's 35 million, including Minneapolis, La Crosse, Duluth, Milwaukee in the range here of slight to enhanced risk. And again, we'll be tracking that risk for tornadoes, hail, a dangerous potential day. This is for tomorrow, again, including places like Davenport, Iowa, into Madison, Wisconsin. And then we shift even farther east. This is on Thursday now. 43 million at risk for severe weather, including tornadoes. And we're talking about the Windy City now, Chicago in that enhanced risk. Lots of folks dealing with that severe weather threat on Thursday. That's later on, but right now we're seeing some very heavy rain across the south into the Midwest. We've seen flooding, millions impacted this morning by that flood risk, and we've had flash flood warnings as well. Now, we're also seeing heat building across the middle of the country and the humidity in the mix as well. So it's going to feel like triple digits today into tomorrow. In the Northeast, it's been very pleasant, actually. We've had dry heat for the past couple of days in places like New York City and Philadelphia. That's going to change as well. Later this week, we're looking at sizzling temperatures in the 90s Thursday and Friday. And yes, that is not a dry heat. The humidity comes roaring back as well. We're out west. We're watching a fire threat today. We have that combination of low relative humidity and windy conditions, the Four Corners region. So any fires that could spread very quickly. For that reason, we have red flag warnings in effect for much of that area. All right, here's a look at the big picture for today. We'll be watching out for more flooding heading into the Tennessee Valley later on. We have very heavy rain this morning. That'll continue. Hot and humid for the middle of the country. 90s all the way up to Minnesota, straight down to Texas. That is some major summer heat there. Again, that severe threat later today in the Dakotas. Out west, generally quiet. The fire risk is there. Otherwise pleasant. Southern California. And again, in the Northeast today, 79 in New York City. Comfortable low humidity. But all of that changes. We want to enjoy it while it lasts, because by tomorrow, the mugginess is back.
And as you said, it is not a dry heat here in the Northeast.
No.
All right, Rafael, thank you so much. Closing arguments are set to begin later today in Texas in the murder trial of Carmelo Anthony. The 19-year-old is accused of fatally stabbing 17-year-old Austin Metcalf at a high school track meet last year. Prosecutors say what started as an argument over a spot under a team tent ended in that murder. The defense maintains Anthony felt threatened and acted in self-defense. If convicted, he could face life in prison. NBC News correspondent Ryan Chandler has more.
Carmelo Anthony's defense suddenly resting their case. Anthony, now 19, has pled not guilty to the murder of 17-year-old Austin Metcalf, claiming self-defense after fatally stabbing him in the chest at a high school track meet last April. The defense calling Anthony's former football teammate to the stand, who described Anthony as distraught immediately after the stabbing, telling the jury he saw Anthony crying, a coach comforting him. A contrast to the exchange captured on the arresting officer's body camera, where Anthony says, "I'm not alleged, I did it, and he put his hands on me, I told him not to." The defense argues Anthony was responding to a physical threat from Metcalf, but prosecutors call his actions unjustified provoked murder, alleging he goaded Metcalf into pushing him, then killed him. Also in dispute, whether Anthony should have been in a visiting team's tent in the first place. His former teammate testifying that was not unusual, but witnesses for the prosecution said Metcalf's team had a strictly enforced no uninvited guests policy. One witness testifying that Anthony refused to leave when asked, calling the students a bunch of expletives who were not going to do nothing about it in the moments before the stabbing. The trial that has ignited racially charged rhetoric across North Texas now barreling toward a close. Anthony's supporters raising concerns for fairness after the prosecution struck all black jurors, urging their supporters to avoid disruptions.
That only serves the interest who wants you to turn this trial into a circus.
Ryan Chandler, NBC News.
For more on the case, let's bring in NBC News analyst Misty Maris on what jurors will be weighing as they prepare to deliberate. Misty, good morning. So much emotion, so many heightened emotions surrounding this case. It's bringing up issues of race, the makeup of the jury, perhaps discrimination. As a juror, how do you tune all that out and just focus on the evidence?
So the jury is going to be instructed that the only things they can consider is what came in during the trial, and the judge will spend some time today giving those instructions in court. But there is so much activity outside of the courtroom. It's likely one of the reasons why the jury is actually sequestered through deliberations. So they'll be in a really controlled environment while they determine the outcome of this case.
I thought it was interesting the prosecution called 21 witnesses, the defense just 3, and Carmelo Anthony never took the stand despite what we saw in that body cam footage. In the end, so much of this case comes down to whose version of events the jurors are going to believe. How do you go about weighing the credibility of the witnesses in this case or in any case?
Yeah, so we have really grainy footage in this case that shows the altercation that happened, but it's so difficult to see that it's necessary for witnesses who were there to actually describe what they saw. Yeah. And that's what played out in the courtroom. In a self-defense case, there's a very specific standard, and it's subjective and objective, meaning first, the jury has to determine whether Carmelo Anthony truly felt subjectively in his mind that there was a threat of grave bodily injury or death. Then they have to determine whether or not that belief was reasonable, the objective standard. So that's what the jury is going to weigh. The other aspect that the jury will have to take into consideration is whether or not they believe Carmelo Anthony was the initial aggressor or provoked the incident, which would not allow him to avail himself of a self-defense argument. So those are going to be all the factors. You usually don't hear defendants testify. That's very common. Yeah. But in a self-defense case, it's more challenging because of the fact that you have to understand what's in their head and what they perceived the threat to be in order to use a self-defense argument. And that's because usually the defense doesn't have to say anything. Yeah. Once they claim self-defense, they do have to prove something in court.
So with closing arguments today, what do jurors need to hear to maybe tip the scales in their mind that they haven't already heard through the evidence?
So the jurors are not only going to hear closing arguments, which wraps up and puts all of the evidence together for the prosecution and the defense, laying out all of the arguments, but what they'll also hear are the jury instructions. So the legal requirements that need to be proved by the prosecutors, that they have the burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt, and that's how they have to apply everything they heard in the courtroom against the standards of the law. So today is going to be a really consequential day in court.
Really sad when you look at the young lives that have been at stake throughout all of this. Misty Maris, thank you so much for your insight. We're back with international news now, and the recovery is just beginning in the Philippines, where buildings crumbled during a strong and deadly earthquake. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Freyer has a look at the damage brought by this 7.8 magnitude quake.
Massive devastation in the Philippines. A powerful earthquake flattening buildings, sending people scrambling. The destruction seen from multiple angles. With the most powerful earthquake in over 50 years hitting Mindanao, measuring magnitude 7.8 and triggering landslides and tsunami warnings along the coast. Multiple buildings collapsing. It was the first time that I experienced something so strong, says this man. It struck early morning on the first day back at school after summer break. One video showing the ground shaking so violently, the roof was brought down. At a nearby high school, students and teachers were ducking for cover. One of the areas hardest hit, the southern port city of General Santos. The airport there, sustaining damage, had to be closed and only partially reopened. Rescue teams now fanning out to find people trapped or missing. While in Cuba, people evacuating after a magnitude 6.1 earthquake just off the coast, and evacuations at this Mexico resort where tremors were also felt. Janice Mackey-Freyer, NBC News, Beijing.
In Spain, Pope Leo XIV is now on his second stop of his first visit to that country as leader of the Catholic Church. The American Pope is now in Barcelona as part of his week-long trip that marks the first papal visit to Spain in 15 years. Pope Leo left the capital city of Madrid this morning, where he received a warm welcome from millions of Catholics over the weekend. NBC News international correspondent Raf Sanchez is live in Barcelona for more on the Pope's visit. Hi there, Raf. Give us a sense of the feeling in Barcelona as the Pope arrives.
Hey, Jessica. Yeah, a lot of excitement here. The Pope just touched down. The city very ready to welcome him. Here's the deal. The Sagrada Familia Basilica behind me welcomes 700,000 American visitors every year, and the first American Pope is going to be among them tomorrow. The church has been under construction for more than a century. It's still not finished, but this year they did hit a major milestone. Its tallest central spire, the Tower of Jesus Christ, is finished. It stands 566 feet tall. It makes the Sagrada Familia the tallest church in the world. And tomorrow, Pope Leo is going to be holding Mass inside the church, blessing that tower. And there's a lot of excitement here for that. Jessica.
Raf, we saw that the Pope got a strong standing ovation from the Spanish Parliament after he made his address there yesterday. The Pope calling for a greater respect for migrants' rights and international law. And we've heard him talk a lot about this so-called moral renewal that is necessary. Why is that so significant?
So this is the Pope's first major trip to a European country. He's been in office for a year now, and we are starting to get a stronger sense of his worldview. As you say, he spoke out very forcefully, saying that war and political polarization are pushing the world into a profound moral and spiritual crisis. He had a pretty direct message for European lawmakers who are spending a lot more money on defense right now in the face of Vladimir Putin's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, but also in the sense that the United States under the Trump administration is withdrawing from Europe. He warned those lawmakers that weapons will not buy permanent peace. And as you say, he spoke out forcefully for the dignity of migrants, saying that societies will be judged by how they treat the most vulnerable, not the strongest. Jessica.
Walk us through what his goals are in this visit to Spain and why he's making this particular trip now.
Yeah, so this is the first trip by a pope to Spain in 15 years. This is historically a very important Catholic country, but church attendance rates here in Spain, as across Western Europe, have declined pretty sharply in recent decades. The Vatican very heartened that more than 1 million people turned out to greet the Pope in Madrid on Sunday. The specific timing of this trip, though, Jessica, is to mark 100 years since the death of the man who designed the Sagrada Familia. That is the legendary Catalan architect Antoni Gaudi. He began construction on the church in the late 1800s, and his work was far from finished when he died in a tram accident in 1926. And in the century since, you have had generation after generation of architects continuing his vision. In one of his final acts before his death last year, Pope Francis put Gaudi, who's sometimes known as God's architect, on the path to potential sainthood. And so it was important for Pope Leo to be here June 10th, 2026, exactly 100 years on from Gaudi's death. Jessica.
And finally, Raf, what else can we expect during his time out there? What else is on the agenda?
So, final leg of his trip, he's going to the Canary Islands. That's Spanish territory off the west coast of the continent of Africa. And it is a place that a lot of people have been making a dangerous journey from Africa through the waters of the Atlantic to try to reach, in the hope of reaching European territory. According to a Spanish NGO, 3,000 people died making that journey last year, and Pope Leo is going to meet with some of those migrants and refugees, and it's part of his continued effort to shine a light on people who are forced to make those very dangerous journeys.
All right.
Jessica.
Raf Sanchez, thank you so much. Coming up on Morning News Now, growing concerns about a flesh-eating parasite in Texas that could wipe out the country's beef industry. What we're learning about another case just discovered in a new state. And dreaming big, the new study uncovering the importance of sleep for kids' long-term mental health. Your weekly check-in is next, right after this. Officials are warning of a potential outbreak of the New World screwworm after the Department of Agriculture confirmed 5 cases in the U.S. so far. There are 4 cases in Texas and a 5th now in New Mexico. It comes after the USDA confirmed the first case in more than half a century last week. The flesh-eating parasite had previously been eradicated in the U.S. The agency is now planning to spend about $750 million to build a facility in Texas that will produce sterile screwworms in hopes of pushing this pest out of the country. The facility will produce about 300 million insects weekly, but it won't be operational until next year at the earliest. The screwworm poses little risk to humans, but officials say it can be deadly for livestock and pets. Yuck. All right, it is time now for our weekly mental health check-in. This week, employees may love working from home, but there's a new study out that shows it might be affecting mental health more than anyone realizes. Plus, is fear of being cringe stopping members of Gen Z from living life to the fullest? Let's bring in Dr. Robbie Ludwig for that and more. She is a psychotherapist and author of Your Best Age Is Now. Good morning, Dr. Robbie. Let's start with that new study about working from home. We know how popular this became since the COVID pandemic. A lot of people on this team actually produce the show from home. But this new study says the style of work can hurt our mental health. So what else did researchers find? And what's your advice for people who still want to stay at home and do their work?
Yeah, so working from home can be very convenient, but what they found is that people are spending about 72% of their time alone. And it's not the working at home per se that's problematic, it's the isolation that people experience. They're not necessarily connecting with their coworkers at work in person, and they may not be coordinating times to spend with friends or create other social events that help them to experience themselves differently. There's a power in connecting with others. It gets us out of ourselves. And when we're home alone too often, we tend to think of all of our problems, and it's very hard for us to get out of ourselves mentally, and it can lead to feeling low and loneliness.
Yeah, so maybe that hybrid method of half the days at work, half the days at home could be something there. Yeah. Next, there's a new study that says kids who get poor sleep early in their childhood are at a higher risk for depression in their teenage years. Can you talk more about the connection between sleep and mental health, and what can parents do to promote and establish those healthy sleeping habits at home?
So they did a study and they found that if young children were not getting regular sleep, it was leading to potential teenage depression. And they think it has to do with the brain development, that if you're not getting the proper sleep when you are a child, consistent sleep, then the part of the brain that manages emotional regulation is somehow not developing as strong as it could. And this is almost an easy fix for parents if you look at sleep as nutrition. So when parents are able to incorporate sleep hygiene into their child's life, go to sleep at the same time, have a sleep ritual where it's cool and dark and no screens in the room, kids are getting longer sleep and better sleep, which helps them to be more emotionally sound in a way. They can manage their irritability, they can focus better, and they tend to feel better as well. So sleep is the perfect reboot that we all need in order to have a fresh start to our day and feel mentally well.
And it applies for us in our 40s too. Finally, let's
Absolutely.
All of us, exactly.
Yes.
All right, let's take a look at the power of cringe. I'm so sick of this word from my almost 12-year-old. A poll earlier this year found more than half of Gen Z say anxiety about being cringe has prevented them from opening up emotionally. Experts describe cringe as a kind of second-hand shame, which isn't helped by so much of young people's lives being recorded and posted online all the time. So how can they get over these feelings and just be themselves? Really let their full, authentic selves show, even if it means they're a little cringy.
So these kids want to fit in with their peers. They don't want to be humiliated, but they live in a world where, if you are cringe, let's say, in a moment in time and it's recorded, it lasts forever. And you have to think not only of your peers, but an audience, and our brains aren't really designed for that. So it's really important to redefine this idea of self-humiliation and just look at it as human, that it's part of developing our own identity, who we are. And it's not a sense of failure. It's a road to figuring out our own uniqueness. And what they recommend for kids is finding their own small group of people who accept them, who look at cringe as being just an individual and unique, and having just a small trusted network to be yourself. And that really helps in terms of learning who you are and bringing that to the world.
Sometimes cringe means you're just having fun. Dr. Robbie, thank you so much.
That's right.
Good to have you today.
Thank you.
Coming up, pack your bags. Your big summer getaway is just a few clicks away. And get this, you don't have to spend a fortune to book it. Up next, we'll show you some of the best deals and the hottest destinations. Morning News Now. We'll be right back. We're back now with a new report that can help travelers get the most bang for their buck when booking summer vacations. Hotels.com has released its annual Hotel Price Index, sort of like a travel cheat sheet, I should say, highlighting the best deals and the best value destinations around the world. For more on this, let's bring in Melanie Fish. She's a travel expert and the Vice President of Global Public Relations at Hotels.com. Melanie, I have so many questions because the clock is ticking on summer vacations. Your team analyzed internal data and surveyed more than 11,000 people to determine some of the best travel deals this summer. What has been top of mind when people are booking their trip?
Value.
Yeah.
Value is the headline out of this year's Hotel Price Index. Cheat sheet, as you call it. And people aren't just looking at price. There's really been an increase in these cost-conscious booking behaviors. They're smart. They're not just looking at price. They are booking more domestic than international, but they're prioritizing affordability. Mm-hmm. So in the Hotels.com app, there are filters. And right there with family-friendly luxury stays, there's an affordability value filter. Use of that filter has gone up 1,800%. And what that tells us is that people are not giving up on their summer trips. They're just being really smart about it.
We know that when we talk about value and price, that gas prices are still high, flight prices are still really high. How can we get the most value out of our hotel stays, and what should we be looking for?
People really have been worried about the uncertainty in those fuel prices, gas prices. What's my airfare going to be? So they're looking at hotels as a place where they can find that value. And they're not just looking at the price and choosing the cheapest one. They're using the filters available to them. They're looking at all-inclusives. Use of that filter's up 50%. They're looking for that free breakfast included. They're looking for those meal deals. If it's a VIP access hotel, they want to know, okay, is there a food and beverage credit? Is parking for free? They understand that value isn't just about the price. And people are not giving up on luxury stays. In the U.S., a five-star hotel averages about $370 a night. If you want to stick with international travel, the average drops to $250 a night. And if you can find that good airfare, there are some places where five-star stays are under $200 a night.
So if you have champagne taste on a beer budget, where are we going to find the best prices for these five-star hotels?
Yeah, we came up with a list of examples in the Hotel Price Index, and some of the places include Vietnam, Thailand, where you are looking $100, $200 for a luxury stay. Brazil is another one. And then not only are you getting these luxury stays, but I was lucky enough with my 86-year-old mother to just go to Vietnam and Thailand. Not only were the stays luxurious on a budget, but the meals are inexpensive and delicious. And we did a whole spa day for $50. So don't give up. Look for that airfare, because the rest of it can really work for a value trip.
Any other tips you have for people who are saying, you know what, let's take the plunge, let's just do it?
You know, there's something counterintuitive in this year's Hotel Price Index, and it's that last-minute stays can actually save you money on accommodations. 23%, in fact, is how much people saved on average booking last minute as opposed to 4 months ahead of time. Now, I'm not willing to risk not having a place to stay or a place that I don't want to stay. So I would maybe make sure you have a backup plan, make sure you have a refundable hotel booked, and then keep an eye on it. And then people are really used to setting flight price alerts. You can do the same with hotel prices. Set an alert so you see when those prices drop.
So if you have some flexibility and you're a procrastinator, not all hope is lost for you.
No, absolutely. Let's go. It's a stay here summer, not a stay home summer.
I love that. Melanie Fish, this was great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And speaking of summer road trips, gas prices are a little bit lower at the pump right now, but still high enough to make a lot of people think twice. The bigger issue is the overall rising cost of owning a car. On top of that, tariffs and bans on Chinese technology are keeping some more affordable electric vehicles out of reach from American drivers. NBC News business reporter Ali Canal has more.
This summer, it's never been more expensive to own and drive a car in America. The average new car costs almost $50,000. With interest rates still high, average monthly payments hit an all-time high of $773. And while gas prices have come down a bit, the Strait of Hormuz is still essentially closed, and you're probably paying north of $4 a gallon.
Prices are crazy, so I can see why people would want to conserve their money.
I've been walking to school now because of the gas prices.
Americans are searching for deals. One place they can't find them, Chinese electric cars. A booming biz. Last year, more than half of all cars sold in China, the largest market in the world, were electric. But Chinese automakers selling more than 500,000 cars in Europe last year, too. A big reason why? They're cheap. Leading the way, Chinese automaker BYD, which outsold Tesla in Europe starting last year, with some models starting under $30,000. Our Tom Yamas got a test drive while in China.
You can't get this in the U.S. right now.
No.
That's because of a ban on Chinese technology and 100% tariffs on China-made EVs. But now, a growing call to let China at least make their cars here.
They want to come in and build a plant and hire you and hire your friends and your neighbors. That's great. I love that. Let China come in.
But U.S. automakers don't want China to come in. They cite national security concerns around Chinese spying. But the bigger issue might be price.
China has been going into lots of international markets and undercutting price in those markets. It might be very, very hard for U.S. automakers to adapt to.
Some believe the U.S. can compete, but only on a, quote, level playing field. GM CEO Mary Barra talking with our Christine Romans as part of our new Business in America series.
Can GM match the quality and the price of those Chinese competitors?
Well, I think you have to look at what's happening, and we know from a Chinese vehicle perspective, they're being subsidized heavily by the government. I'm confident that we can compete.
The problem is China's entire EV industry has spent decades benefiting from its own government support. The U.S. tried to offer some support with the Biden administration's EV incentives, but many of those policies now phased out, and the big three U.S. car makers racked up tens of billions of dollars in losses from EVs over the last few years. The Alliance for American Manufacturing says Chinese cars coming to the United States could be a, quote, extinction-level event for the U.S. auto sector. As gas prices eat into wallets and generate more interest in electric cars, time will tell what American consumers demand and how much they're willing to pay for it. Ali Canal, NBC News.
Coming up on Morning News Now, a dream come true for a young soccer fan.
I love how he is a good soccer player. He's kind to others, and he just makes my heart blossom. It's just huge to meet Messi in Argentina.
When we come back, the special moment between an 11-year-old cancer survivor and one of the greatest to ever play the game. Stay with us. Finally, this hour, as excitement builds for the first World Cup matches on Thursday, one lucky little fan got the opportunity of a lifetime. Mateo Rodriguez beat cancer after he was diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma about 4 years ago. He says watching soccer helped him get through his treatments. Reporter Todd Palmer from our Kansas City station has his story.
Mateo Rodriguez may have been the luckiest kid in Kansas City Wednesday, shaking hands with the incomparable Messi and meeting Argentina's soccer team before practice in KCK. But the moment was possible because of the bravery and toughness he showed after catching an unlucky break 4 years ago. 2 weeks before his 7th birthday, Mateo was diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and Sporting Kansas City honored him at a game in 2023.
After an x-ray revealed he had a tumor that covered most of his chest. Although he is still receiving treatments, Mateo remains loving, kind, and funny.
When I was hospitalized, I would sit in bed and I wouldn't be able to get up and go see my friends at all. And that was really hard for me.
Soccer helped Mateo cope with more than 100 hours-long hospital visits, lumbar punctures, and endless blood transfusions. The game was a welcome distraction, especially watching Messi at work.
I love how he is a good soccer player. He's kind to others, and he just makes my heart blossom. It's beautiful. It's awesome to think that this is the world's best player and the champions of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. So it's just huge to meet Messi in Argentina.
Emiliano Martinez, L'Alba Celeste's starting goalkeeper, was also among the players who posed for a picture with Mateo and his brother.
He was kind and offered to take a picture with us. We shook hands, and I love how it's my brother's name, actually, Emiliano.
Mateo is entering 5th grade and plays right wing on his youth soccer team.
Do you have moves like Messi?
I'm starting to get up on the skill level, but so far no.
Already an inspiration. Maybe one day he'll be a kind star soccer player, making a young boy's dream come true.
I look forward to that day, and I hope it comes.
I hope it does too.
Our thanks to Todd Palmer for sharing Mateo's story. The first World Cup matches kick off in just 2 days. You can catch all the action live on Peacock and Telemundo. That does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now. Good to be with you on this Tuesday morning. I'm Jessica Layton in for Joe and Savannah. Right now on Morning News Now, Apache down. 2 U.S. soldiers are reported to be in stable condition this morning after their helicopter went down near the Strait of Hormuz. What we know about the incident and why the commander-in-chief now says America is in the final throes of a deal with Iran. Also this morning, the high-stakes primary battle that's being forged in Maine as voters head to the polls today. Frontrunner for the Democrat Senate nomination, Graham Plattner, is now facing scandalous allegations from his past that could shake up his chances for a seat on Capitol Hill come November. We're watching all those major races across America in just a moment. Plus, is your iPhone actually a futuristic form of birth control? We're digging into a new study that has a lot of people talking that's pinning America's falling fertility rate partially on the tech in your pocket. And a Lone Star upset at home for the New York Knicks, falling to San Antonio Spurs overnight in Game 3 of the NBA Finals. We've got all the highlights, plus how the presence of the president was received by fans at the world's most famous arena. So much to get to this morning, but first we begin this hour in the Middle East as we're learning new details about a U.S. Apache military helicopter that went down near the Strait of Hormuz. U.S. Central Command says 2 crew members were safely rescued and they are in stable condition. The helicopter went down near the coast of Oman, which borders the strait. No word yet on what led to the crash. The pivotal waterway has been a major sticking point in this ongoing war with Iran. It happened after Iran and Israel exchanged attacks for the first time since a ceasefire took effect back in April. NBC News chief foreign correspondent Richard Engel is following the latest developments and has the very latest from Jerusalem. Richard, good morning.
U.S. Central Command says this Apache attack helicopter was lost at sea and crashed while on patrol off the coast of Oman. The cause of the crash, according to CENTCOM, is still being investigated.
President Trump says American helicopter pilots are safe this morning after an Apache gunship went down near the Strait of Hormuz.
The pilots are fine, yeah.
And was
nobody injured. We are going to issue a report tomorrow, but the pilots are fine.
This morning, U.S. Central Command saying the helicopter went down while it was, quote, patrolling regional waters, and that the soldiers were rescued within 2 hours and are in stable condition. Apache helicopters are part of the U.S. military's presence in the Persian Gulf, where Iran and the U.S. are in a blockade standoff, with Iran blocking the Strait of Hormuz and the U.S. blocking access to Iran's ports, turning back and disabling ships. The competing closures are driving up oil prices. President Trump says the American one is working to pressure Iran to make concessions.
The blockade continues to hold 100%. Nothing is getting through our blockade. No oil, no income, no nothing. Nothing's getting through the blockade.
But there have been no diplomatic breakthroughs either. Iran and Israel fired missiles at each other over the weekend and into Monday. Iran saying it was responding to Israel's offensive in Lebanon against the Iranian-backed group Hezbollah. Iran says the Israeli offensive in Lebanon is preventing a peace deal with Washington. Yesterday, both Israel and Iran stopped firing, but still disagree over ceasefire terms. As President Trump is becoming increasingly vocal about his frustration with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, after saying he, not Netanyahu, call all the shots and set the terms for a possible deal with Iran, Trump told Axios, "Bibi, you better be careful, or you'll be on your own very soon." Vice President Vance said that Israel and the U.S. may ultimately not agree on the final terms of a settlement to end the war they began together.
We have a lot of shared interests, but we also have some situations where our interests diverge.
Despite the disagreements and ongoing violence in the region, President Trump says he remains optimistic the U.S. will reach a diplomatic deal with Iran, potentially, he says, in the next 2 to 3 days.
In California, we're closely watching the race for mayor in Los Angeles 1 week after Election Day. Despite his early lead back on election night, NBC News now projecting that reality TV star Spencer Pratt will not advance Trump's baseless claims of voter fraud. NBC News correspondent Liz Kreutz joins us now from Los Angeles, where she's been closely following all these races. Liz, good morning.
Hey, Jessica, good morning. Spencer Pratt, he gained a lot of momentum through his viral campaign ads railing against the city's leadership, as well as his personal story of losing his home in the Palisades fire. But in this very blue city where Democrats overwhelmingly outnumber Republicans, it wasn't enough to clinch that critical second spot to run off against the incumbent mayor, Karen Bass.
This morning, a week after California's primary day, reality TV star Spencer Pratt's insurgent campaign for LA mayor has officially run its course. NBC News projecting progressive city councilwoman Nithya Raman, who had been steadily gaining ground on the conservative political outsider, will now advance to the fall runoff against incumbent Democratic Mayor Karen Bass. The results, a bitter disappointment for Pratt's supporters after his election night high when results showed him in second place last week.
I didn't know I'd be here tonight, but this is obviously God's plan.
The race drawing national attention, with some top Republicans without evidence claiming voter fraud, including President Trump posting on Truth Social, not possible for Spencer Pratt to have lost the LA runoffs after the big lead he had, rigged elections. But California's election process often slower than other states. More than 80% in this race voting by mail, and those ballots are counted so long as they're postmarked by Election Day. The nonpartisan official in charge pushing back on fraud claims.
This is how the voting process is structured in California, based on giving voters multiple options and a long time period for when to cast their ballots.
And Mayor Bass also firing back.
What do you make of the president's claims and some of the claims by Spencer Pratt's supporters that the Democrats have cheated in this election?
Well, I think that that's a familiar accusation that is made when one is losing.
Statewide, well over 1 million mail-in ballots still need to be counted.
You can see every single one of these ballots is being counted by hand. They then make their way over here to this highly secure tally room.
While in the tight race for governor, Republican Steve Hilton says the system is flawed, but he hasn't seen evidence of fraud.
We've seen nothing that would give us cause to intervene in that way.
His race still a question mark. Either Hilton or Democrat Tom Steyer will face former Biden cabinet member Javier Becerra in the November matchup.
And Hilton is one of many now calling on the state to make changes to its ballot counting process to speed it up. Governor's Newsom office tells us that the governor wishes the vote count move faster, too. As for the L.A. mayor's race, Spencer Pratt had previously said that if he didn't win, he was going to leave L.A. We should say that he has not commented on that or spoken out since NBC News and other outlets projected last night that he is not advancing to the runoff. So we'll see. Jessica.
All right, Liz, thank you so much. Meanwhile, it's primary day in Maine, where voters will decide who will be on the ballot in November. Democrats are looking to flip a Senate seat there that's been held by Republicans for decades. But the front runner for the Democratic Senate nomination, Graham Plattner, has some members of his party concerned as scandalous details from his past are now coming to light. NBC News Chief Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles is in Maine with those details for us. Ryan, good morning. What more can you tell us about Plattner's political agenda and the longtime Republican senator that he's looking to unseat here?
Yeah, Jess, well, the reason that Graham Plattner has caught fire here in Maine is because of his promise of change. He is an unabashed progressive Democrat. He's somebody who has the support of progressive lions like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren. But he also is running up against very stiff competition in Susan Collins, who is the longtime incumbent Republican senator here. She is a moderate. She's running for her 6th term and is someone who has beat back Democratic challenges in the past. But right now, Plattner feels as though he's tapped into something special here in Maine. He's drawing big crowds, holding very raucous town halls, and he feels very confident that not only will he win the Democratic nomination here tonight, but that he will go on to defeat Susan Collins. And if he does, that will certainly increase the Democratic odds of winning back the majority in the fall.
And Ryan, let's talk about these so-called scandalous details that have emerged from Plattner's past, and have they seemed to have the impact on this campaign?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt, Jess, we can't talk about Graham Plattner without talking about the drip, drip, drip of controversy that surrounds him. There is, of course, the tattoo that some say resembles a Nazi symbol that he later covered up, saying that he didn't know the significance of it when he got it as a member of the military. There are the past social media posts where he's done things like downplay sexual assault and pick on rural Maine voters. Most recently, he's had issues related to his past relationships. 3 different women that accused him of being toxic and unsettling in their relationships with him. Now, he has said that those claims are in some cases not true or politically motivated. But regardless, it is something that is now in the back of Maine's voters' minds as they head to the polls here today. I have to tell you, though, Jess, we talked to a number of Democratic voters that participated in this primary this morning. Many of them say they're concerned about these allegations of Plattner's past, but not enough to support him because they believe in the issues that he is backing. It's likely enough, in fact, it's almost guaranteed to get him through the Democratic primary. The question is, how will it manifest itself in the general election, especially against a candidate as strong as Susan Collins?
And Ryan, Plattner's race is obviously the big headliner in Maine, but what else is on the ballot for Maine voters today?
Well, it's a busy day. They also have to pick their nominees for governor, both Republican and Democrat. They have incredibly active fields in both cases, more than a half dozen candidates running in both the Republican and Democratic primaries, also a slew of local elections as well. One interesting thing to keep in mind about Maine as you see the votes come in tonight, this is a ranked choice voting state, meaning that you pick your favorites, 1 through however many are running. If a candidate does not clear a 50+1 threshold in the first round of voting, they go to the second choice. So it does take time to count these votes before a winner can be declared. We don't expect that to be the case in the Senate race on either side because there are clear frontrunners in both places. But it could be a while before we know who the nominees are for both the Democratic and Republican parties in their race for governor, Jess.
Well, it will be a busy day for voters and a busy day for you, Ryan. Thank you so much. Some severe storms are expected over the next few days, so let's get a closer look at what to expect with your Morning News Now weather. Meteorologist Rafael Miranda joining us now. Rafael, good morning.
Good morning, Jessica. Yeah, we're talking about severe weather that could cause some significant impacts across the middle of the country. Today, our risk threat focusing on the northern plains here. Showers and storms later on this afternoon, and then these storms march east tomorrow into the upper Midwest, places like Minneapolis. And Thursday is the day that millions will be potentially under the gun from some very nasty storms, even around Chicago storms that could produce tornadoes. So we're looking at the severe threat now for Thursday. 43 million at risk. If you have travel plans in the Midwest on Thursday, watch out for significant delays, tornadoes a possibility, and also large hail. This morning we've seen flooding concerns, especially in the Tennessee Valley here. We're looking at a flood watch in effect through the day today for parts of Kentucky, Tennessee, and even into southern Illinois. Also some very strong storms and heavy rain moving through parts of the Midwest. The heat builds out west. It continues to be very muggy. So look at these heat index values. It's going to feel like 105 degrees in St. Louis today. Temperatures in the 90s all the way up to Minneapolis. Major heat starts to expand towards the east over the coming days. So tomorrow, Chicago feels like 98 degrees. And you can see D.C. also starts to roast tomorrow. Here in the Northeast, we've had a rare stretch of comfortable warm weather. That changes over the next several days. You can see the heat starts to sizzle. Even in New York City, we're in the 90s, and that's not a dry heat there. That's high humidity, and it could feel like close to 100 degrees. Out west, the fire weather threat is the big deal. Low humidity and gusty winds, red flag warnings in effect for millions in the Four Corners region. Looking ahead to the weekend, potential record heat in the mid-Atlantic on Friday. You can see there's a cold front bringing some storms. It does knock down the humidity a bit on Saturday. We're still staying hot, though. 80 in Boston, near 90 New York City. That's for the World Cup game in MetLife Stadium, or New York, New Jersey Stadium is what they're calling it for a couple of weeks, I guess. But so that's going to be hot for the game there, as well as the Puerto Rican Day Parade. A lot going on in New York City for this weekend. Scattered storms across the south and cooler by the coast. For Sunday, staying warm, 89 in New York. We should only be in the low 80s this time of year. Also very hot out west. And we're tracking some heavy rain across the south on Sunday. For today, again, the big picture looking relatively quiet in the southwest. Texas, very hot. We're watching that flood threat in the south today later on as the day goes on. Jess.
Here in the Northeast, especially for those World Cup games, lots of water, lots of hydration.
Staying hydrated.
All right, Rafael, thank you so much. Well, this morning, Pope Leo XIV arrived in Barcelona for the second stop on his historic first trip to Spain. The American pontiff met with volunteers in Madrid during his final event in the nation's capital city. Now, the Pope is continuing his week-long trip with several prayer events today as part of the first papal visit to Spain in 15 years. NBC News international correspondent Ralph Sanchez joins us now in Barcelona with more on the Pope's visit. Rafael, Pope Benedict was the 16th, was actually the last pontiff to visit Spain when the nation hosted World Youth Day, and that was back in 2011. Give us an update on what the Pope has been up to so far today.
So, Jessica, these big papal visits involve a huge number of volunteers. You need street marshals, people handing out water, keeping things moving. And so the Pope earlier today in Madrid met with those volunteers who helped with the Madrid leg of the trip. Many of them are young people themselves, and he thanks them for their efforts. He said he wanted to thank them for giving what you could, offering your heart, hands, ideas, talents, and smiles. He then left Madrid. He got on a short flight here to Barcelona. He arrived here a short time ago. He is currently at the city's cathedral. He's holding a prayer service there. And then later on tonight, he is heading to the Olympic Stadium, which, of course, has hosted so many of those really iconic Olympic events. And then tomorrow, the big day here at Sagrada Familia. Jessica.
Pope Leo was met with a very warm welcome, Raf, in Madrid. He was greeted by more than 1 million people over the weekend before getting a standing ovation after he addressed the Spanish parliament. What did you think were the highlights of that speech?
So he spoke out very forcefully, saying that he feels that war and political polarization are pushing the world into what he called a spiritual and moral crisis. He also addressed European lawmakers very directly. Europe is spending a lot more on defense right now because of the full-scale Russian invasion of Ukraine, but also because there's a sense in Europe that the United States under Donald Trump is pulling away from NATO. The Pope warned European lawmakers that weapons will not buy long-term peace. And he also had a pretty stark message on the dignity of migrants and refugees, saying that societies will be judged by how they treat the neediest people, not the strongest, and calling on wealthy nations to address the root causes like war, like poverty, like climate change, which cause people to leave their homes and make dangerous journeys coming here to Europe. Jessica.
You spoke about the event at the Sagrada Familia. What else is on the agenda for the Pope today?
Yeah, so tomorrow he is going to be here at the Sagrada Familia. This is a church that is 100 years in the making. It is still not finished, an architectural masterpiece. But what is done is that central tower that you can see on your screen right now. It is the Tower of Jesus Christ. It stands 566 feet high. It is crowned with a cross 5 stories tall, and it makes the Sagrada Familia the tallest church in the world. So the Pope will be holding a special Mass inside the church to bless that new tower. And the Mass is timed to coincide with the 100th anniversary of the death of the legendary Catalan architect Antoni Gaudi. He is the man who designed the church. He began construction there way back in the 1800s. His work far from finished when he died in 1926. 100 years later, you can see it is getting there, but still not totally done.
It is still breathtaking, though. Ralph Sanchez, thank you so much. We are back now with the latest on that deadly earthquake in the southern Philippines. At least 37 people were killed and hundreds more injured. And officials fear those numbers could rise as rescue crews reach the hard-hit areas. NBC News international correspondent Janice Mackey-Frayer has more on that. Janice, good morning.
Jessica, this was a powerful earthquake measuring magnitude 7.8 with more than 130 aftershocks, several of them also quite strong. Rescue teams have been working to reach those areas across Mindanao. It's the second biggest island in the Philippines, both in size and population. Officials say some 10,000 families have been displaced because their homes are too damaged, and authorities are warning them to not go back because those aftershocks could cause them to collapse. Dozens of people have been injured. The quake was centered offshore, about 20 miles deep, and the death toll is climbing. Many of the victims have been trapped in a landslide triggered by the earthquake. Casualty numbers are still being verified by the National Disaster Agency, but the scale of the devastation is coming into view. A lot of the damage in the southern port city of General Santos. It's a hub for the tuna export industry. Rescue teams there searching buildings that have come down, including a supermarket, looking for survivors possibly trapped inside. Crews are using heavy equipment, but also carefully moving rubble with their hands. Videos across social media have shown buildings and bridges toppled, roads that have buckled. The U.S. has said that it's ready to support the Philippine response efforts. Philippines military has been deployed, but aftershocks, again, are slowing down search and rescue efforts, and time really is a factor. Teams are trying to do what they can in the first 24 to 48 hours after the quake, that critical window to find survivors. Jessica?
Janice Mackey-Frayer, thanks so much. Well, if you were one of the millions of people glued to their TVs for the Artemis II lunar flyby back in April, pay attention to this. This morning, NASA is announcing the 4 astronauts who were selected for the Artemis III mission. That big reveal is happening in just a few hours. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello is at NASA's Johnson Space Center in Houston with more on this big announcement. Tom, good morning.
Hey, good morning. So I just want to show you where we are, right? This is the Orion crew mock-up. This is the same ship that the Artemis II crew practiced in before they did that big loop around the moon. So now Artemis III's astronauts will be announced today, and they will train in the same mock-up. But they're not going to the moon. They're going to be orbiting the Earth, practicing docking procedures with 2 potential lunar landers. The trouble is, so far we've had trouble with both of those lunar landers. But ideally, if they can get the docking down, eventually, that's what will put astronauts back on the surface of the moon.
Booster ignition. And liftoff.
Fresh off the success of Artemis II's 10-day lunar slingshot, the first time in 50 years that astronauts traveled so close to the moon.
We just went sci-fi. This has
it just looks unreal.
NASA will today announce the next Artemis crew.
Everybody understands what's at stake right now.
Artemis 3 will not head to the moon, but instead orbit the Earth, practicing docking maneuvers critical for future moon landings. NASA is counting on 2 private companies to build the lunar landers needed to reach the surface of the moon. Neither system has been perfectly test flown yet, and never by humans. Elon Musk's SpaceX Starship recently had a successful test flight, though engine problems prevented the mission from being completely flawless. But the giant rocket meant to carry Blue Origin's lunar lander into space blew up in a spectacular ball of fire during a ground test just 2 weeks ago. Founder Jeff Bezos posting on X that they still have a solid path forward to launch this year. Critical because NASA wants to fly the Artemis 3 mission next year.
Let's figure out what's broken, and then we got to keep moving forward.
If that Artemis 3 mission is a success, NASA wants to land humans on the moon in 2028. The agency recently unveiled dramatic plans for a massive lunar base powered by solar and nuclear energy near the moon's south pole, so astronauts would have access to water ice. It was just 2 months ago that the country celebrated the safe return of all 4 Artemis 2 astronauts.
Use integrity. Splashdown, sending post-landing command now.
Reed Weissman, Victor Glover, Christina Cook, and Jeremy Hansen sharing their experience on Today.
What an extraordinary experience as a human being, the things we saw.
The hope this morning that Artemis 2 was only the first of many future missions taking humans back to the moon.
And Tom, NASA has a lot more planned over the next 5 years. What's next?
Yeah, so here's the timeline, right? If all goes as planned, again, today we learn who these NASA astronauts will be in Artemis 3. Artemis 3 would be orbiting the Earth in this docking test. That would be next year, 2027. And then, in a perfect scenario, they would see the first lunar landing in 2028, then another lunar landing in 29 with kind of exploring and beginning the whole moon-based construction. Then in 2032, astronauts will be living and working on the moon. But it all has to go right, and we've had these setbacks lately with both SpaceX and Blue Origin. So this is a very aggressive timeline. Can NASA meet it? That's the big question. We'll see in the coming days, weeks, months, and years. Back to you.
Tom, my eyes just got as big as the moon as you talked about what they expect in 2032. Thank you so much. For some perspective on this big announcement, let's bring in former NASA astronaut Mike Massimino. He's the author of Moonshot. He has logged nearly 600 hours in space and more than 30 hours of spacewalks. Mike, your eyes got big too. Thank you so much for being here this morning.
Pleasure.
As we heard in Tom's piece, the next mission is about practicing docking maneuvers. Why is this step so important, and what does it entail?
Yeah, so the reason the docking is so important is that the lander will be launched separately from the crew. So the lander will make it to the moon in the future, in the next mission, Artemis 4, the landing, and then the crew would rendezvous with it and dock with it, and then go inside of it and then land it on the moon. So this is a big step. You need to be able to land on the moon, so that's why they're checking out the lander, and they need to be able to walk around. So you need a spacesuit as well to do that.
So when we talk about what's expected of this crew, they're expected to spend more time in the Orion capsule than the last crew. What exactly will be tested during that time?
So they're doing some more checkouts of the Orion, but different than this other crew, where they did some rendezvous proximity operations with part of the spacecraft that the Orion has, the service module. This is going to be a bit different, where they're going to be actually rendezvousing with one or hopefully both of the landers. And then we'll see what they say today during the press conference. But I think the hope would be that they would rendezvous, check out both the control of the lander and of the Orion related to the lander, being able to dock successfully, and then maybe entering the lander and then separating and checking that out. So this is a really important flight. It might not be as cool as going to the moon or landing on the moon, but it's a really critical flight to check out the equipment you need to be successful on the next few missions coming up.
I think it's still really cool. We just heard Tom Costello talk about the fact that Jeff Bezos expects Blue Origin's lunar lander will still be ready to launch this year, despite last week's explosion. What has to go on to meet that goal?
Well, there's two things to think about here, Jessica. One is the vehicle that's going to go to the moon, which is the lander that's going to go to the moon, and then a launch vehicle that's going to take it there. So the plan is to still have the New Glenn, which is the problem they had that you saw there, that big spectacular explosion. That's the launch vehicle to take the lander up. If that's not ready, there may be other options, or theoretically, there are other launch vehicles that can take the lander up. But I think in the perfect situation, they'd want to be able to find out exactly what happened with the New Glenn, and I think they're working toward that. And the initial reports are that they're getting close to finding out what happened and being able to turn it around fairly quickly, so they can do another launch of the New Glenn maybe sometime this fall. Okay. So that's one thing, and then the lander has to be ready as well. They want to send the lander to the moon without people, a cargo version of that to the moon also this year. So there's a lot that's going to happen this year that will determine that timeline that Tom talked about.
Well, and they're talking about 2 years from now, humans landing on the moon and then living on the moon by 2032. Yeah. Is this a realistic timeline?
I think it's good to have a timeline, but I think also these things are flexible, and typically they'll move out a little bit. People will remember a disaster. You don't necessarily remember things being delayed.
True.
But you need to have deadlines. And I think it's interesting that they're announcing the crew, because usually you announce a crew when you have something for them to do. You know, you just don't know you're going to hang around. So they're going to be doing things. Victor Glover was interesting when after that crew was assigned the Artemis II crew 3 years ago. I ran into Victor Glover down at the Johnson Space Center and asked him what he was doing. This is just a few months after. He said they were doing three things, all starting with the T. They were talking about what they were going to do to the public and to the people at NASA. They were testing things that they were going to use on the mission, still kind of developing things. And then they were training for the mission. And I think that's what this crew is going to be doing. So I think assigning a crew is an indication that they have something for them to do and they're getting ready to prepare for the launch. It may not happen exactly when they say it's going to happen. I would expect there's going to be setbacks. But I think it's a good sign that they're going to have a crew assigned to get things ready.
They are going for it. All right, Mike Massimino, thank you so much.
You bet.
Coming up, it's a fight night legal fight taking center stage on the White House lawn. When we come back, we dive into the new federal lawsuit looking to knock out that controversial UFC brawl before it's slated to kick off this weekend. It's coming up next on Morning News Now. Back now with a closer look at what's making news in the world of politics this morning, starting with mounting midterm pressures as Congress heads toward a historic low for passing legislation. Capitol Hill correspondent Julie Sirkin has that and a lot more. Julie, good morning.
Good morning, Jessica. The headlines today are all out of Washington. We'll start, as you mentioned, on the Hill, where this Congress is on pace to make history for all of the wrong reasons. They're tracking toward the fewest bills passed in half a century. Now, a lot of that comes down to the president. Republicans in the House and Senate repeatedly tried and failed to push back on Trump's reach, whether it's the ballroom, the war in Iran, or other projects. With the midterm elections around the corner, though, legislating, Jessica, will get even more difficult. Now to the Kennedy Center. On Monday, the performing arts venue removed President Trump's name from its website, and by Friday, they will need to take his name down from the building itself. It comes more than a week after a federal judge ruled the venue has been illegally renamed by the president's allies, who, remember, control the center's board. And going back to the Capitol, Republican senators are warning that a key and controversial surveillance program could expire this week. Section 702 of FISA, it allows the nation's spies to monitor foreign nationals without a warrant. They say it has helped stop some real threats, including a terror plot targeting a Taylor Swift concert in Austria in 2024. Now, there are bipartisan concerns the program can incidentally collect Americans' communications, impeding on their privacy. But now there's also significant pushback from Democrats over the president's pick to lead the intelligence agency, Bill Pulte, who's a housing executive. And Jessica, that is a look at what is making news in politics this morning.
All right, Julie, thank you. We are now just 5 days away until a much anticipated UFC event that's set to happen this Sunday on the lawn of the White House. But a lawsuit filed against the federal government is asking a judge to stop the mixed martial arts fight from taking place altogether. Sunday is also President Trump's 81st birthday. NBC News legal affairs reporter Gary Grumbach joins us now from Washington with more on this story. Gary, good morning. The Trump administration has been going all out for this Sunday's event. We've seen that 92-foot-tall fighting ring that was put up on the south lawn of the White House. Gary, who filed the lawsuit and what exactly are they alleging?
So this was filed by 2 Virginia residents who say they frequent the area of the White House all the time, and they're upset that their view of the White House is currently obstructed. As you mentioned, you have seen this, you can see it right there, this massive structure that is on the south lawn of the White House planned for Sunday's big event. They're alleging that the National Park Service is unlawfully allowing this to happen because NPS has imposed a temporary rule allowing events associated with the nation's 250th birthday to happen on monumental grounds like the south lawn. But the UFC fight isn't technically associated with anything related to do with the nation's 250th birthday. So they're arguing this is happening illegally and unlawfully, and they're asking a judge to shut it down after 3 weeks of building that structure and the various other Fan Fest events on the South Lawn and the Ellipse. We should get a decision from a judge on this on Thursday or Friday of this week. Jessica?
Gary, the White House has been heavily promoting the fights. A video on X posted by the White House shows President Trump at past UFC events. How is the administration responding to this lawsuit?
Yeah, this has really become a UFC fight. It's really become a safe space for Donald Trump. He's gone there in times of struggle. He's gone there in times of triumph of his administration and during his campaign. The White House is saying this particular legal challenge is an obstructionist and baseless attempt to stop this from happening. And they cite a number of events that do happen on the South Lawn throughout the year. The Easter egg roll, the Halloween trick-or-treating. A lot does happen on the South Lawn. We've never, though, before seen a UFC fight on the South Lawn of the White House. Jessica?
Yeah, nor a structure like that. All right, Gary Grumbach, keep us posted. Thank you. Coming up, is the smartphone in your pocket actually a futuristic form of birth control? When Morning News Now returns, we'll dig into some eye-opening new research that's drawing a line between the release of the humble iPhone nearly 2 decades ago and America's falling fertility rates. We'll be right back. We are back with a major update from Apple. The company is introducing new tools designed to help keep kids safer online as concerns grow about the effects of technology and social media on young people. Morning News Now anchor Savannah Sellers has the details. Savannah, good morning.
Hey there. Well, Apple has had safety features available prior, but they weren't always reliable, and that frustrated parents. Well, now the company is promising a complete overhaul, devoting much of the keynote at their Worldwide Developers Conference to announcing new parental protections and upgrades designed to give parents more control and transparency when it comes to kids and their devices.
All right, what age are we giving our kids cell phones?
It's a struggle parents know all too well.
I don't want him to have access to these apps.
And one Apple is hoping to help manage.
We know many families are looking for help to make sure their kids experience only what parents think they're ready for.
Starting this fall, parents will be able to control which websites are accessible to their kids, with the child having to request permission to browse any new ones, expanding on a similar and improved tool restricting app downloads. Also new, a time allowances feature to set limits on how long kids can spend on certain types of apps, entertainment, games, and social media. And soon, parents will have easier access to scheduling when certain apps are available to block usage during school or meal times. These protections expanding on a recent feature that allows parents to control their kids' contacts and communications through messages, FaceTime, and phone calls.
The hope with these new child safety controls is that at the operating system level, you'll be able to control what these apps are doing.
This coming amid pressure on the tech giant to step up age verification measures for children downloading apps.
We know Apple has been trying to fight that at the state level. Here is Apple saying, look, we are giving our parents, we are giving our users the controls they need to keep their kids safe.
Headlines about the impact of screens on kids are front and center, including landmark lawsuits against social media platforms.
It's not fair that what they're doing to our kids.
And last month, the Surgeon General warning about the harms of screen use, urging parents to delay screen time as long as possible. Apple tackling the tech transition, promising families it's their focus.
We're giving parents powerful, easy-to-use tools to help manage what kids can see, who they can talk to, and when they have access.
Now, Apple says these features have been created in partnership with safety experts, and it all starts with creating a child account. That's something you can do even if your child already has a phone. Once you create that account and link it with your own, you'll be able to access some of the existing tools. These new features and upgrades will be available in the fall, along with an assistant to help you set it all up. Back to you.
Great tips. Savannah, thank you. Turning from how smartphones may be affecting your kids to a new study suggesting they may also be changing one of life's biggest decisions. having children. A recent paper published by the National Bureau of Economic Research notes that U.S. fertility rates have fallen 22% since 2007. That is the same year the first iPhone went on sale. So now researchers are exploring whether the rise of the smartphone may have played a role in declining birth rates here in the U.S. and around the world. We want to bring in one of the authors of that research, Professor Caitlin Myers, economist at Middlebury College. Professor Myers, this is so interesting. Thanks for being here. Your study has a headline that really grabs people. Is the iPhone birth control? What exactly is the connection? And are people scrolling now in bed more than doing other things? Is that what's going on here?
That is the question, and that is the new evidence as well. So for many years now, psychologists and other social scientists have been suggesting that the introduction of the smartphone has really dramatically changed how we spend our time and how we interact with each other, and that it may be a major factor behind this large decline in fertility. We're the first to dive in and try to test it.
So your research suggests this isn't about people deciding they can't afford kids. It's sort of more about fewer relationships forming in the first place. What do you think smartphones are changing about how people socialize, connect, date?
Well, you can see since the introduction of the iPhone and the smartphones that followed it and were modeled after it, that people are just spending way more time alone. Loneliness is up, socializing is down, and it's pretty hard to get pregnant if you're not hanging out with other people.
Well, a lot of people will hear about this and think there's got to be more to the story. Maybe it's the expensive kids. Maybe it's people wanting to go for that career milestone before they have kids. What's the most important thing you want people to understand about what the study says and what it does not say?
Sure. So we're not ruling out other factors contributing to declining fertility. Like, nobody's saying it's just this one thing. In fact, I would be very skeptical of anybody who said we're seeing this really complex, large social phenomenon. It's just this one thing, right? But what people should know is that the decline in fertility is largely driven by young people who have experienced a precipitous decline in births, and that declines in unintended pregnancies are a big factor here. So it can't just be a story about what people are planning for, because a big part of what's going on is a decline in the unplanned pregnancies. And that is where we should be looking. And for our study, we don't just say, oh, there's a correlation, it must be causal, but rather we say we have a natural experiment. We can look at places where the iPhone was available, and we can compare them to places where it wasn't.
Such a great point, and a reminder that babies are not made by doom scrolling. Professor Myers, thank you so much. We end this hour with an exclusive first look at a brand new feature from Time magazine. Just this morning, in fact, the inaugural Time 100 sports list was released. From athletes and coaches to advocates and investors, it features some of the most influential leaders shaping the global sports landscape right now. Let's bring in Time's senior sports correspondent, Sean Gregory, for more on this. Sean, good morning. We're glad to be able to break the news with you. We will get to the list and the global cover feature in just a moment. But first, tell me what inspired you all to create this list, and how did you narrow down the honorees?
Just to give the moment we're in right now, we have a World Cup coming up in a few days. The NBA Finals are going on. As you might have heard, the New York Knicks haven't won in 53 years. And the UFC fight on the White House lawn. All this week. So sports, in this kind of fragmented world that we live in, sports is such a commodity right now because it could still be a common uniting experience. So this was the perfect moment to do it. How do we choose the list? It's a hard list to put together. There are a lot of sports out there, a lot of influential people. We didn't just do athletes, as you mentioned. We did media executives. We have a stylist in there to athletes, because tunnel fits and fashion have become such a big deal. So it took a long time, and it's a group effort. And then ultimately, our editor-in-chief kind of signs off on everybody on the list.
So the first Time 100 sports issue features four-time NBA champion LeBron James on the cover. What makes him stand out from the other athletes on the list?
So there's an argument to be made, and you can check it out in the story, that LeBron James is the most influential athlete of the last 50 years. And why? Because of what he's accomplished on the court, his longevity. He's still playing at a high level at over 40 years old. Nobody's ever seen that before. He was probably the most hyped high school athlete of all time, and he exceeded expectations. And then off the court, he did something radical. He kind of hired people that he knew as friends as a kid to handle his business, and he got criticized so much that it wouldn't work. Now him and his friends have built a business empire, and the things that he does, a production company, getting involved in politics, those are things that maybe you do back 50 years ago, 40, 30, even 20 years ago. You do that when you retire. He's still doing it when he's playing, and he still might play another few years. So he seemed the obvious choice to highlight in our inaugural list on sports influence.
Coming off a story about Serena Williams, I love the athletes in their 40s. Well, who are some of the other big names, and not necessarily just the athletes, that were featured here?
Yeah, I mean, Rob Mack, the actor who took over Wrexham, the English soccer club, and built a wonderful documentary series that people know and love. So he's not somebody you wouldn't think of a sports person, but he's on the list. There's creators, I Show Speed, Lindsey Vohn's on the list. Her comeback was, although it obviously, the crash of the Olympics, made worldwide news, but she got there, and that was the big thing. Erling Haaland, the soccer player from Manchester United from Norway, who you'll see in the World Cup, he's a goal-scoring machine. So, yeah, we've got a good variety on this list for sure.
It sounds like it. And to celebrate, Time will host its first ever Time 100 Sports Gala next month. Tell me more about that. What can we expect at that event?
So, it's our first ever gala in New York City. It's at a good time because a lot of people are going to be in town for the World Cup final a few days later. And there's something called Fanatics Fest, which is a big fan culture event. The founder of Fanatics, Michael Rubin, is also on our list. So, and you'll see Lindsey Vohn's committed to come. LeBron James is committed to come. Myles Garrett, the all-time sack leader, who just got traded from the Browns to L.A., is committed to come, and a whole bunch more. So I think it'll be a star-studded event. We're going to have a red carpet live stream. So it'll be a kind of hopefully a news event, a celebration, the whole deal at a time of the calendar year. Again, World Cup final coming up, where sports will be on everybody's mind.
Something for everyone to get behind. There's so many great lessons in sports. Sean Gregory, thank you so much. I'm looking forward to reading the whole list. And that does it for this hour of Morning News Now. The news continues right now.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or watch live on our YouTube channel.